everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Welcome back to another video. Today we have a special fashion edition all about the Met Gala. This year's theme was Sleeping Beauty's Reawakening fashion, which I love. I was so excited when I saw that this was what the theme was going to be. And the dress code was Garden of Time. Now, according to the Met Gala, the basis was to examine how technology can breathe new life into garments that are too old and fragile to be worn. I think that some people missed the memo on it. Some people picked the garden themes, some picked time themes. Some, very few, I would say, really went for the Sleeping Beauties sort of a theme, but that makes sense because that was more the theme of the Met Gala, not the dress code per se. I definitely felt that a lot of people missed the theme, but that's usual at the Met Gala. You have a lot of really costumey looks, a lot of really dramatic things, interesting things, but you also expect to see a lot of show-stopping beautiful items at the Met Gala. There's always some people who just opt for showcasing their designs or showcasing a piece regardless of if it's on theme or not. And this year was no different. Just look at how many people went for black, like really dark, heavy looks. And this kind of surprised me because of the theme. I don't feel like these heavy black outfits necessarily correspond to any element of any of the themes. But there are a few exceptions. For example, Zendaya went for this vintage Givenchy. That one's definitely on theme. I like it. I'm not obsessed with it. I feel like the flower headpiece is maybe a little heavy for the drama that the dress had. I think this would look a lot more beautiful with more like a floral headband perhaps, or a flower crown, or just something less intense and heavy on top of this huge, dramatic, and heavy looking gown. Some of these black looks, like for example Cardi B's, didn't correspond to the theme in any way, shape, or form for me. I just don't connect this with any elements of the theme. It's very, very dramatic. It's costumey, so it suits the Met Gala, sure. But was it right for this Met Gala? I can't say. I don't particularly like that one. Some of these looked really, really messy, like Vera Wang's looks really messy. Usher's Alexander McQueen look kind of made me giggle because he looks uncertain about how he's holding his flower here. Like they just gave it to him and said, hold this, and he looks like he doesn't know what to do with it. I think Greta Gerwig looks really nice. This is one of her more flattering looks, that's for sure. A lot of people are raving about Bad Bunny's look, and I'm just not loving it. I'm not obsessed. The red stripe up the center is really catching the eye, and it's creating a little bit of an awkward visual here because the focal point then is the center of his legs. It makes everything else look kind of wide and just not as flattering for him as I think it should be. And Rosalia's Dior dress, I really, really love it. I think it's fabulous. It looks great on her. It's very flattering to her figure. But again, it's not necessarily on theme, per se. Kendall Jenner's Givenchy dress is okay. I think it's fine. There was a lot of comments about this dress. I don't see any major problems with it, but I don't also love it either. I think it's just all right. Meanwhile, Serena Williams' dress is just not working for her. She and Nicole Kidman are wearing Balenciaga, so shame on them for choosing that designer. They are still in timeout as far as I'm concerned. But Serena Williams' dress here, it has a lot of this draping and whatnot, creating all these diagonal lines, and it's accentuating her curves in a nice way, which is great for her figure. The draping is very flattering for her. But this metallic, shiny fabric is kind of overwhelming things and ruining the look a tad. It also is creating a situation where the black opera gloves and black shoes are a little bit heavy, almost competing with that shiny fabric, which also looks a tad bit wrinkly everywhere. So I feel like if this were in a more graceful, softer satin, or just a different fabric altogether, this look would be a total win. But because of this particular fabric choice, it's looking very, very messy, almost tinfoil-ish. I love her headpiece, hair, and makeup, but the rest of it's just not vibing for me. And still, these looks don't necessarily correlate to the theme in my book. I don't look at these and think Sleeping Beauties, Garden of Time, none of that. Nicole Kidman's, I think, looks really nice. I quite like the look overall. I think it's very interesting. It has a fabulous silhouette. It fits her great, but the opera gloves do look a tad bit too tight. I think she should have had a necklace here. Anna Wintour's might be a little bit too on the nose. She's wearing Loewe. A really popular choice for this year's Met Gala was Loewe. I love the color of it. I love the fit of it. I think it's a really, really pretty choice, but part of it is reading a little bit heavy. And then we had a few people opting for the really, really dated sheer nude dresses like J.Lo and Schiaparelli or Emily Ratajkowski in Versace. These were just reading really blah. This is so outdated at this point. It's been so overdone. It's very, very expected from these two in particular. They opt for these sort of naked dresses so frequently. It's just overdone at this point. These looks, this style of dress is not exciting anymore. It's not interesting anymore. It feels like we've seen it before every single time somebody opts for these sorts of sheer, sparkly, naked gowns. It's just been too overdone at this point, and on these people included. They've done them before, and it's been overdone. So it's just completely uninteresting at this point, and I don't think that you could relate either of these things to any elements of the theme either. So these were total misses just for those reasons, regardless of whether or not they look nice or the dresses are interesting. It just didn't work because it looks boring now at this point, and that's kind of a bummer. The naked dress has become boring because we've seen it far too much. Greta Lee had a somewhat naked dress here with Loewe, her go-to option. This one had a lot more interest to it than Emily or Jennifer's did. It's got a more sculptural panel in the bodice. The sleeves are kind of interesting, but overall I still think that this falls into that category of been there, done that, totally over it. And setting that aside, I still don't love this. I'm not wowed by this in a good way, necessarily. Few people took this in the direction of Sands of Time, sort of a vibe. Most on the nose would be Tyla and Balmain. Very, very Sands of Timey. The hourglass accessory really drives the theme home, which was good because I think when you first look at it, you wouldn't necessarily think of it that way. So I think it did need the hourglass to make it make sense for everybody. Mindy Kaling's and Pamela Anderson's just sort of subtly vibe with Sands of Time because of the fabric choice and because of the flow of the garments. Neither of them are like my absolute favorite, but I think Pamela's looks really, really nice on her. It's very flattering. I love the flowiness of the skirt. I think the sculptural elements of Mindy's are quite interesting, and I think it's draped really, really pretty. Pamela's dress is Oscar de la Renta, and they are very hit and miss, so I'm glad to see a success from them. I don't love the way she styled her hair, or maybe those are some feathers in her hair. I don't particularly like that. Next up, let's take a look at some more that were very much not on theme enough for the Met Gala, and also didn't really have any sort of parallels the way Sands of Time, you might be able to get away with that. Here, this batch just really doesn't correlate at all. I definitely think Zoe Saldana, some people said this looked like a fairy, and maybe, I absolutely love her, but really because of the Chloe belt, this feels very much more an opportunity for Chloe to advertise their fall 2024 ready-to-wear collection, not a Met Gala themed dress. Ariana Grande is in Loewe. I think it's a very, very pretty dress. It has a very beautiful ethereal flowiness to it, but I just don't think it's on theme enough. Keke Palmer's, I think, is trying to reach for that sort of deconstructed garments that are too old sort of a vibe, but I just don't think it transferred well enough here. Naomi in Burberry looks absolutely stunning. This is a beautiful dress. Absolutely love this one. I love Irina Shayek's Swarovski dress. Fabulous. Obsessed with these dresses, but they're just not on theme. They look great, but they're not on theme. Michelle's Balenciaga dress, Shame, looks like tinfoil. It looks like crinkled up tinfoil, baked potato tinfoil. Not working. I don't like the dress in general, and I definitely don't like it for Garden of Time. I also had a couple of these sort of white iridescent-y dresses, Kaya Gerber in Prada and Hari Nef in H&M, neither of which are Garden of Time. On the other hand, a few people went maybe a little too on the nose, like Lana Del Rey and Alexander McQueen. I quite like the twiggy representation on this dress. The sort of tree vibes are really, really beautiful, really well done. But the mosquito net is taking it too far. We do not need the mosquito net. Get it off. Amanda Seyfried in Prada. It's more tinfoil, but with flowers this time, and a sort of weird headpiece. I'm not loving this. The fabric just looks bad. The waistline is hitting her in a bad spot. It's widening her a lot, taking away from her waist. It looks frumpy. It looks like foil. It's not good. Lily James's Air Dem dress is pretty nice. I really quite like a lot of it, but it's not necessarily my favorite of the night. I think Cynthia's dress got a little too messy with those flower petals. I think it was a nice idea and I like where they were going with it, but I think it needed a little editing. There's too many strings hanging off on top of everything else going on. It didn't quite come together. And this monstrosity, it's not flattering to her. It does not look good at all. The proportions are all wrong. I really feel bad, but this is an absolute disaster. Possible worst dressed contender here. This batch I quite liked. I think they made really strong efforts to stay on theme. A lot of these are really, really beautiful. They're not necessarily my favorite. Did they push it into best dressed category? No. These are not the most beautiful of the night, but they're very interesting. They're quite nice in a lot of ways. We have Kerry Washington, Oscar de la Renta. This luscious purple velvet looks fabulous. I'm not loving the way the bodice comes up. It's kind of erasing her boobs altogether. These really thin, pointy tips to the cups are just maybe not as flattering as they could be, but the dress itself is gorgeous. Absolutely love it. This one here, I'm not sure what's happening with the shoes. Totally tragic shoe choice to an otherwise very on-theme dress with a good amount of interest. Amelia Gray's is very on the nose, on theme, but I'm not loving the styling. It's interesting and unique as a dress, the piece of it itself. I think it's not as beautiful as it could have been, but the styling just took it into weird territory here, and that was unfortunate. This sort of bamboo reminiscent breastplate, I believe this is Loewe as well, with the draped skirt, is really pretty and interesting. I can't decide if I love it or if I'm just not into it. I think that mixing media like this can be really tricky, and I think this demonstrates how tricky it can be. These dresses, also super on theme, but much less flattering than the last batch here. We have Aquafina and H&M. H&M was very hit and miss on this evening. I haven't seen a ton of their more couture or more high-end designs at the Met Gala before, and so I think this was maybe a bit of an experiment. I just don't love this for her. It's really eating up her figure. It's making her look a lot wider than she is. It looks quite comfortable and it looks warm enough and all of that, but it's just not flattering to her figure, unfortunately. Amanda Gorman is wearing Prada and I like it a lot. I absolutely love this sort of cornflower, almost pastel sky blue color here is just gorgeous. The embroidery or card fabric is beautiful, but it looks ill-fitting around the waist and stomach area as well as the bust area. And because it's folded down on the straps, it's making it look like it doesn't fit her boobs. So that's just unfortunate. Boo, shouldn't have happened. Love the headband. Tessa is wearing Chanel. I love that she's carrying this basket bouquet. I think that that's kind of cute. I don't know, the dress itself is just erasing her bust line and creating a slightly frumpy silhouette. So I'm not loving that sort of baby doll empire paper bag waistband situation. I'm just not loving this dress overall in terms of flattering her. It's not. And I can't decide if I like the basket bouquet or not. I think it's maybe a little too... I think it doesn't go with the dress enough is the problem. The bouquet in a basket looks almost a little bit dated, like something you might see in a bathroom counter or something. And then it's with this dress that has a very beautiful fabric and print in an unflattering frumpy design. They're just not marrying very well. And then Taraji P. Henson's dress is so not flattering to her waistline here. I think everything except for this waistband is beautiful. I love her hair. I love her makeup. I love the flowers in her hair. I love her jewelry for this. The dress itself is gorgeous in every way except for along this waistband. It ended up widening her in a very unfair way, and it looks lumpy, like it just doesn't fit her nicely at all. So this was really unfortunate. Next up, let's look at some that were a little more flattering. Like, for example, Sabrina Carpenter in this Oscar de la Renta dress. Not sure that it's fully on theme, but I love this big, beautiful draped skirt. It's very, very pretty. I think that it fits her nicely and looks really beautiful, but could have been more on theme for sure. They could have even added just like some flowers that matched the skirt across the top, gave her a headband or something to really bring that in. This just doesn't look like it was meant for this theme. Elle Fanning in Balmain looks like she's covered in plastic wrap and oil across the top, so that's pretty unfortunate. And Cailee Spainey's Miu Miu dress is really pretty. I think it's really nice on her. I love the interesting cut of it. I think the flowers were just the right amount. And this one here totally resembles a butterfly. I like that. I think that goes with gardens. I think that works, but some people didn't like the butterfly inspired and didn't think it matched enough, but I think it does. I think it's nice. I absolutely love Maria's green ensemble here. The dress itself is spectacular and the opera coat is great, but I wish it were less wrinkly. It's so wrinkly, it really took away from an otherwise beautiful look. I like Michelle Williams. I think it could have been a little more on theme, but I really, really like it. I think it's very flattering to her. I love her hair for this. I thought that was really fun. Demi Lovato's looks nice, on theme. A little bit of a safe choice, but I think it's great. And Kim Kardashian's look, I think, was okay. I think the dress itself, with the sort of floral sheer skirt and the metallic tones of it, are very on theme and on trend. I like all of that. The sweater shrug, I'm not 100% behind it, but I think it's okay. I get where the designer was going for it. For the corset itself, I think I do lean a little bit more towards the camp that says this is getting a little extreme when it comes to the corset situation here. It's not hidden, the fact that she's wearing a corset. It's very clearly a corset from the back. You can see the lace up, and she has always been one to really lean towards exaggerating her figure, so it's nothing new necessarily. Some of the most on-theme dresses of the night were also some of the most pretty and fun to look at. Gigi Hadid's Tom Brown dress here is very beautiful. I love the trim across all the ruffles. I don't love the off-the-shoulder strap situation. It is giving falling down vibes. So apart from that, I really like this though. And just look at how beautiful the setting of this is. They did such a great job decorating this year, and the carpet choice just looks so fabulous. It looks just ethereal and beautiful the way it fades away from this area, especially in this particular picture. It was perfect positioning. I really appreciate that. Io Debris' Loewe dress is very beautiful, very on theme. Don't love the way it's looking up here on the bodice and the halter top here. I think could have been improved to be more flattering to her. Nicki Minaj's is probably the most fun of the evening without leaning into an unflattering territory. It's very flattering to her. I love the yellow. I love the flowers. It's cute. It's whimsical. It's gorgeous. This green Swarovski number is amazing as well. I absolutely loved seeing these Swarovski designs. Most of them were really successful. The jumpsuit, not so much, but this green one is fabulous. I'm not 100% behind the choice of necklace paired up with the location of the bodice. I think if the bodice came up a little higher, she could have got away with this sort of choker, but because of the position of the bodice where it's at right now, and the opera gloves, I feel like it needed a pendant necklace or something that came down a little bit lower. Next, let's take a look at some misses. We have Balenciaga's absolute mess. It's tragic. It looks just awful. It looks ill-fitting. It looks messy. Shouldn't have happened. Sarah Jessica Parker's, I love the hat. I love the nods to history, you know, Garden of Time. You could go back in time for this. I like that. I think it's really editorial. It's really nice in a lot of ways, but I'm just not fully loving it. Gala's Alexander McQueen dress is on the miss list, not because of the dress itself, but because of the fit. It looks very ill-fitting around the bust and upper back area. It looks uncomfortable. And also the lace created a little bit of a messy look around the elbows, the wrists. I think it could have had a slightly better fit. Maybe have the hair completely up instead of in a ponytail would have helped. But also I think that the lace, the cut of the neckline, and the red mermaid flare are all competing a little bit because your eye ends up bouncing across the lace top and the red mermaid skirt and you can't really find a good focal point for it. I think they maybe should have picked one or the other to have a little bit more success on this particular look, but I love Alexander McQueen, so it's unfortunate to say so. Kylie and Oscar de la Renta is incredibly ill-fitting, which is unfortunate, but also kind of to be expected. The Kardashians are not ones to always have things fitted absolutely perfectly, and Oscar de la Renta very much so does not always send things out fitting perfectly. This looks a little messy around the waistline. Again, we have that sort of exaggerated, enhanced figure happening here where the waistline looks a little out of proportion to the rest of the figure, which is fine, but if it weren't for the wrinkling, the look that it's falling down across the bust, and the impression that it's also a little too short or hitting at an awkward length, I feel like it could have been a lot more successful. She needed a necklace or some dramatic earrings or perhaps some sort of shrug to really tie it in together. But it's definitely hitting too low across the boobs. It needed to come up a little bit higher across the sides of the boob. It's got some wrinkling across the waistband, making it look like it's too tight, and some wrinkling across the dress and the train itself. And the train was a little bit too much for this dress, so just overall it was a bit of a mess. Also, on top of it all, it's not very on theme. Add some flowers, something. A lot of these just came off looking a little bit too messy, and sometimes it's due to the fabrics not marrying nicely enough. A lot of those sheer fabrics are just really hard to work with, but otherwise it just came off less flattering than it needed to. Sarah Paulson's, for example, her Prada dress is really, really pretty. It might be a tad bit stuffy, maybe a little frumpy across the top, but generally speaking, I think it was really pretty. Donatella's dress, on the other hand, Donatella Versace back there, looks amazing. Her dress was so beautiful. Absolutely loved it. Perfectly on theme. Very, very flattering. Cara Delevingne and Stella McCartney, I'm not a huge fan. I think the skirt is impeccable and fits her perfectly, but I do not love the sort of almost knight-inspired, like armor-inspired, all-in-one swim cap sort of vibe with the shirt. With the top, I just don't love that. I don't know that it fits into the theme either. That's not really working here. We have more droopy bows from Coach. They just look frumpy. They just look bad. America Ferrera fell victim to that at the People's Choice Awards. It's just not a good look. We have a relatively good choice for Shakira here. This Carolina Herrera dress is pretty nice. I don't see any major issues with the cups except that they look like they're maybe a tad too small, maybe falling down just a tad it looks, but the train is a little extreme. It's absolutely ginormous, but the sleeves itself and the dress overall I think are okay. These ones, although I see their efforts to be on theme, just came off a little bit too messy or just didn't quite work here. Meanwhile, this collection of dresses are just not on theme at all. Not on theme whatsoever. None of these have elements that you could tie to any element of the theme. Some of them are also kind of ill-fitting or not very flattering to the figure, so I cannot put my finger onto why these were chosen. Camila Cabello just looks like a normal dress, not a Garden of Time dress. Venus Williams, it's just shiny. Elizabeth Debicki and Dior needed some improvement, definitely not on theme. Next, let's see some menswear looks that really hit it home. These are fabulous, fabulous looks here. We have both Jack Harlow and Brooklyn in Dior. Looking spectacular, nicely tailored, beautifully polished, fabulous suits. Love them. Absolutely love it. So on theme. Fabulous in every way. I'm obsessed. Love it. Michael Shannon's I really, really like, but the Balenciaga chip bag needs to go. Lewis Hamilton, also in Burberry, very on theme. Looks really fabulous. Absolutely love it. Burberry was a huge champion of the evening. Loved almost every Burberry look I saw. Jude Law, Charlie Hunnam, fabulous. Meanwhile, some of these menswear looks were either just not on theme, maybe didn't try hard enough. I don't think just sticking a couple of flower decals on your suit is enough to be officially on theme. Some of these maybe just could have been more flattering, a little bit less messy. This, have no idea what's happening. It's terrible in every way. I hate it. Now let's take a look at my worst dressed collection. Get ready. It's bad. We have Dua Lipa and Marc Jacobs looking stunningly messy. Nothing of this do I like. The way this is cut, the bottom of the corset style bodice is so unbecoming in every way, shape, or form. Because it's white, backed by nude and surrounded by black. It is creating the most awkward focal point of the crotch area I have seen in a while. It's just terrible in every way. The completely sheer skirt, the opera gloves, the black over the bodice, all looking very messy. None of that is working out okay at all. These two H&M looks are absolute tragedies. What is happening? Stop it. It's not nice. The balloon skirts are terrible. Never been a huge fan of balloon skirts as it is, but I'm especially not a fan of a balloon skirt with also having some volume or extra stuff going on top. Like, for example, a pregnant belly with a balloon skirt and a frilly frumpy thing on top of the boob. It's terrible. It's not flattering in any way, shape, or form. What's happening? Why did they do this? All of it's tragic. FKA Twigs and Stella McCartney, it pains me to say, Stella McCartney, what are you doing? This is horrible. This is horrendous. It doesn't look flattering. It doesn't look nice. It's just not good. Doja Cat looking like she got caught under the watering can. It's just not pretty enough to be considered best dressed or even adequately dressed. It is on the worst dressed list for sure. Lizzo, absolutely tragic. Don't know what's happening here. It's terrible. But on the other hand, we had some that were pretty nice, on theme, looking flattering. No complaints, no major complaints at least. The Murdochs, Tory Burch, Meg Ryan looking really nice. Allison Williams in Michael Kors. This is spectacular. This is so stunning and beautiful. Brie Larson's Prada dress, super abstract, but I totally get Gardens of Time from this, completely. This reads Gardens of Time. You don't have to be so on the nose with flowers or plant life or things like that. It can be abstract like this one here, reads on theme, and that's what's important. And so this I was quite impressed with, despite it not being necessarily like my favorite design overall. More that missed the theme memo here includes Simone Ashley, Charlie XCS, Rachel Zegler. It's just a pretty blue dress. It's not on theme. Camilla Maroney, I'm not loving the feathered skirt, but I really like the top. I think the top was on theme. If the skirt had flowers or something embroidered into it, it would work. But this, just no, it was a really bad missed opportunity because the top was perfect for the theme. The skirt, totally not perfect for the theme. Unfortunate. We had a few of these like soft pink, almost bridal inspired garden bride sort of vibes that I really liked. I thought they were great for the theme. Maybe not always perfectly flattering like on Lofe here, but generally speaking, these were pretty nice, pretty okay. Stacey Abrams in Chanel, despite it not necessarily being the perfect dress for the occasion, I really like this look. I think it's really pretty. Divine Joy's was also really pretty. This is just absolutely stunning and gorgeous and flattered her nicely. So again, even though it's not perfectly on theme, I still really quite liked it. Lily Gladstone's, I didn't love. I don't think it's as flattering for her as it should have been. And the closest I can get to tying it into on theme would be the night sky, perhaps. Next, we have a few more that just kind of missed the memo on the theme or didn't care. I was excited for this year's theme, so I was a little bit bummed when they didn't. I'm not sure what's going on with Naomi Watts' Balenciaga dress here. The dress itself is great. The opera gloves are great. The shrug, I'm not loving. It's looking a little frumpy, a little messy, not quite working. Next, we have a few more that were just not quite flattering dresses for the wearer, which is always unfortunate. We have Lena's Schiaparelli dress, just doing her no favors. Carol G's Nightmare. What is happening? Jenny Kim looks fabulous. This blue is gorgeous on her, but it's neither on theme nor flattering. Harris Reed and Demi Moore in Harris Reed. Very on theme, very interesting, very sculptural, fabulous choices. Kris Jenner looked absolutely frumpy here. This is a mess. Uma's dress, I think, needed a little bit more tailoring or editing because it's kind of erasing or taking away from her waistline here, which is unfortunate. Aya's boobs are completely squashed. This dress otherwise would have been a total success, but what is happening here? Why did they fit it to her like this? It's tragic. I'm not a huge fan of Rita Ora's. It's kind of giving that sheer dress vibe that's just kind of outdated and not as flattering any longer. And Alexandra Daddario is wearing Dior, and unfortunately is doing the granny panty thing. It's just not flattering. This is never going to work. It's never going to look not awkward. Let's move on. Other notable mentions for menswear looking fabulous. We have Jon Batiste, Jeff Goldblum in Prada. absolutely fabulous in every way. I'm obsessed. I absolutely love this. Meanwhile, I'm not a huge fan of Eddie Redmayne's look or Leon Bridges. It's not quite working. These ladies look just okay. It wasn't super impressive, but it wasn't super tragic. There's nothing glaringly horrible with these. But best dressed, I have to say, Karlie Kloss in Swarovski. This is so beautiful. The soft pink, the sparkles, the flowers, the vines. It's gorgeous. Absolutely love it. Quanah Chasing Horse in H&M. This is one of H&M's only successes of the evening. This lilac-y purple, the sculptural elements of this, the drama of the silhouette is amazing, and it allows that belt to just really rein it in, control the eye, and it looks fabulous. This is just beautiful. And its sleeves, its sort of shrug style top is very new and different. It just looks fabulous. I really was impressed with this. Penelope Cruz is wearing Chanel, looking divine. This dress is so beautiful, and I do think it's on theme enough. Some people said it wasn't, but I think it is because the lace is very floral and it gives that sort of almost antique vibe to it, which is part of the theme. So I think this was really beautiful choice, beautifully pulled off. The styling is impeccable. One of the best of the evening for sure. Jodie Turner-Smith in Burberry, it just looks fabulous. She has the perfect figure to carry off this extremely deep V-neck here. It just looks beautiful in every way. Sydney Sweeney in Miu Miu, one of my favorites of the evening. I love the pastel blue. The skirt looks like an absolute dream. The fabric and the embroidery are fabulous. The black gloves are a little bit heavy, but I feel like it ties in just fine and it works. Overall, I was really hoping to see a lot more like gentle colors, like a garden would have. Things like pastels, soft greens, lilac-y purples, things that have really been coming into trend more this year. There were just a lot of like really heavy blacks like everywhere. There were some bold reds, there were some really overdone, too on the nose, kind of chunky designs. And there were still a lot of metallics, which again, were not fully on theme enough for me, in my opinion, and also we're kind of a little bit feeling last year, the metallics. I did like a lot of the floral sorts of looks. I was also surprised not to see more just greenery looks, because to me, Garden of Time could also be a lot of like shrubbery, trees, grasses, so I was surprised to not see more green, quite frankly. I think some of the looks that chose to focus more on the time aspect were really cool too, but I think they could have been a little bit more forward with it. Personally, I am more drawn towards the like gardeny, softer, more like pretty vibes lately, so I was a little disappointed on that front, but overall, it was a very successful Met Gala. It was a lot better than some years. There were a lot more pretty looks than some years. I was really excited to see more Swarovski stuff because I really like Swarovski just like in general. And to see some of their dresses and whatnot here was just spectacular. I thought that was great. But what did you think? Please leave your best and worst lists in the comments. I cannot wait to read. And I am going to be reacting to one of the best dressed lists to see whether or not we agree. So be sure to subscribe so you can follow up for part 2 on the Met Gala. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for excusing my tardiness on this video. I will see you next time. Have a happy day, everybody. Bye.